Here, Vermont was getting buried in snow. I'm buried in rain now. It's like torrential flooding everywhere. It's headed
This
this
way.
way tonight.
It's washed out in the Stoddard area.
Watch out for the light just came out.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I know Swansea.
Swansea.
Yeah, Swansea and Winchester, a bunch of, they got real bad.
I can't remember, but it's raining so often, continuously.
Select Board meeting, if you could all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first up, we have the 6:26 public and non-public minutes to approve.
Motion to accept the 6/26/23 public and non-public minutes as presented.
Second.
Motion by Peter, second by Mark. Any questions or corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, abstain? The motion passes. We have one announcement this evening. This is for a traffic alert on South Mass Street, 114. Paving preparations on South Mass Street, Route 114 is scheduled to start Tuesday, July 11th at 7 a.m. between the Wallace Road Roundabout and Peernage Street. Expect long delays associated with this work and avoid the area if possible. Through traffic is encouraged to utilize Elm Street and Henry Bridge Road. Residences, businesses, and Barnard Park will be accessible. Please use caution in the area of the work zone. please contact Goffstown DPW at 603-497-3617 with any questions. Thank you for your patience. And Adam, will you post the detour route on Facebook? Have you done this map specifically?
We do have a Facebook post with a map of the work zone area. We do have the preferred detour route for through traffic on Helen River Bridge. We also have an alternate route for folks that are on the mountainside. And then just one more note of that, as long as possible during the work, we'll have traffic on East Union rather as well. When the work is right at that intersection, we can't do that, but for the majority of the work, we still have traffic pretty much staying on Mass Road.
Okay.
Do you have a signboard on North Mass someplace telling people to use the back road?
We do, right at the common.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, a few minutes before public comment. Derek, would you like to start the town administrator's report?
Sure, you're at tab 7 on page 21. Tuesday at 5:30 PM, Sewer Commission will be in this room.
Okay.
At 6:30 tomorrow, the Village Bridge Ad Hoc Committee will be at Parks and Rec.
Yes, sir.
Thursday, Planning Board will be here at 6.
Yep, yes.
Next, just a reminder, next Monday you have a non-public meeting at 6 PM. Next Wednesday, the Library Board of Trustees will meet at the library at 6:30.
Yep.
7 PM, Parks and Rec Commission will be at the Parks and Rec Center.
That's me.
And next Thursday at 6 PM, CIP will be in this room. At your next page, you have employee status reports. You have a firefighter resignation, a clerk 2 resignation, a police patrol officer resignation, and a promotion of a DPW seasonal laborer to full-time truck driver.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented this evening.
Second.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Collis. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained?
On your next page, you have the assessor's recommendations. You have a reports of timber cut and timber tax warrants for the 2023 tax year. This is for map 5, lot 6. You also have the list of property tax exemptions for charitable, religious, and educational. The assessor's member provides a list of the 40 parcels that qualify. Again, this is for charitable, religious, and educational property tax exemptions. This is recommended. And then you have the elderly exemption, which is recommended for map 6, lot 17B-11.
Motion to approve the assessor's recommendation as presented. Second.
Motion by Pete, seconded by Jim. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Motion passes.
At page 24, you have a correction. When we did the proposed wage matrix adjustment for part-time and call firefighter, EMTs, and paramedics, when it was generated, you approved a 3.0% wage matrix adjustment, and there were a couple errors within there. So this is, we're just asking for you to approve the corrected version that's in your packet.
Motion to accept the corrected proposal 3% wage matrix adjustment for non-union part-time and call firefighters, EMTs, and paramedics is presented.
Second.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Peter. Derek, I have a question. What date was that for? Was it for July 1st?
It was for July 1st.
Okay, great, so we haven't made any changes. Any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Motion passes.
Just one quick question, though, just to double check. You went ahead and did the adjustment, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. At your next page, page 6, we have the vote on purchase of land. This is for the small portion of land at 81 South Mass Street, map 30, lot 46. You had the 2 required public hearings on June 12th and June 26th. And the funding source for the $5,000 purchase is from the Public Works Department, their road plan budget.
Motion to purchase 1,357 square feet of land for highway right-of-way at 81 South Mass Street, tax map 30, lot 46.
Second.
Motion by Peter, second by Collis. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, abstain? Motion passes.
At tab 7E with double I, you have the vote on acquisition of land. This is the acceptance of an executory interest in the 73-acre conservation easement at Clark Ridge Farm. Again, public hearings were held on June 12th and June 26th, as well as the Conservation Commission voted to approve the release of up to but not to exceed $50,000 from the Goffstown Land Use Change Tax Conservation Fund.
I'll make a motion that the town acquire an executory interest in the 73-acre conservation easement being conveyed to the Piscataqua Land Conservancy at the Clark Ridge Farm on Patty Hill Road, which is New Hampshire, Route 13, map 10, lots 3, 3-1, map 11, lots 1, and 1-3, 1-4, 1-5, and 1-6.
Second. Go ahead, Jim.
Motion by Collis, second by Jim. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, abstain? Motion passes.
And if I could sneak my last item in here, at tab 7E with 3 eyes, page 87. This is to grant a permanent easement across the town's rail trail, which is identified as tax map 19, lot 47-6. This is at 186 Mass Road. Again, this is for the proposed trailer dealership, and you would be approving the permanent easement to Nunick Holding LLC, the owner of tax map 5, lot 49, and William B. Roberts and Elizabeth H. Roberts as trustees of the William B. Roberts 1997 Revocable Trust, and Elizabeth H. Roberts and William B. Roberts as trustees of the Elizabeth H. Roberts 1997 Revocable Trust, co-owners of tax map 2, lot 59, and this is all predicated on both property owners releasing any easement in the former Buzzell Road easement area as identified on the plans approved by the planning board.
I'll make a motion to approve the granting of a permanent easement across the town's rail trail, which is tax map 19, lot 47-6, to Nunick Holdings LLC, owner of tax map 5, lot 49, and William B. Roberts and Elizabeth H. Roberts as trustees of the William B. Roberts 1997 Revocable Trust, and Elizabeth H. Roberts and William B. Roberts as trustees of the Elizabeth H. Roberts 1997 Revocable Trust, co-owners of tax map 2, lot 59, subject to release of any easement interests in the former Buzzell Road north of Point A as shown on sheet C3 of the site plan by releasing deeds to the town and Nunick Holdings LLC.
Second.
Motion by Collis, second by Jim. Pete, you have a question?
Well, this is the piece of property that's next to the new car wash, right?
Not immediately.
Right.
Yeah, there used to be a foundation there.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
The house burned down years ago.
As you and I know at the old Roy House.
Yeah, the old Roy House, right.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, abstain? Motion passes. All right, at this time, we'll go ahead and open it up for public comment. Is there anyone here this evening who wishes to speak at public comment? All right, seeing none, we will close public comment. We have a few minutes.
I think you could do the appointment.
Okay,
and you
great.
can start.
Mr. Urban, are you?
This is Attorney Sullivan
Okay,
that's going
great.
to speak
Sir, if you wouldn't mind coming up.
Sure.
Thank you, good evening. Hope you all get home before we get too wet. I represent Vinnie Urban, he's not here today, he's getting married today. So, I like to pass out these, in my letter and what Derek presented, pretty well gives a synopsis, but I'm just gonna go through these points.
Thank you. And yes, we're at tab 4.
So just to refresh everybody's memory, if you look at the second page, the last page, it's a tax map. It shows lot 13 and 11 off of Chatel. Gotcha, I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. That has since been subdivided, and the second color annotated plan shows it's now 3 lots. Okay? Each of those 3 lots, lot 11, which is now 11, has an existing 2-family. The other 2 lots were recently approved, and there'll be a 2-family on each someday. Okay. The story tonight begins back in 2011-12, when the town did a water assessment or a connection assessment in that general area. They first assessed at that time was 11 and 13, a combination of $68,000, thinking there were 28 lots. We argued there's no way you're going to get 28. It was reduced down to $44,000. No one really knew how many lots it would be, but just to move it along, and there was an agreement made. It called for $44,000 plus interest, $10,000 interest approximately, for a total of $54,800 to be paid over time until 2030. Of that $54,830, of which, again, $10,000 some change is interest, $33,186 has been paid by the taxpayer. That represents 60% of the amount that was agreed to back in 2012 agreement, leaving a balance under the scheduled payment of $21,643 still owed. However, only 6 units, that's 3 duplexes, have been can be built there. Only one has been built, and that's irrespective of, I was talking to the engineer today, of whether it's an on-site well or water. It's just a topography of that lot, those lots, and the wetland and the setbacks, etc. All you can do is fit in 6 units. You have 2 now. All you can do is another 4 more. That's 1 duplex per lot of the 3 lots. And Mr. Urban and anybody I talked to thinks, geez, if we knew, you know, the famous, if we knew now, then wouldn't have agreed to it. But it just seems inherently unfair when the town is basing it on first at 28, and then when we reduce it to 44, it equates to 18 units, and we're only getting 6, and that's all we'll ever get is 6. And what we're doing here tonight is asking 2 things. One may seem outlandish, doesn't hurt. You only get paid by the yeses, you don't get paid by the nos. Okay, and that is looking at the numbers. If I subtracted if I took 33% or 1/3 of the 54,000, that's $18,000. The reason I did that because at $44,000 divided by the per unit basis that they originally arrived at, it comes up to 18 units. 6 over 18 is 1/3. So I've subtracted that. That tells me if he paid $33,000, which he has, that's a $15,000 overpayment if it was going to equate a certain amount per unit. So again, 24, paragraph 8, 2428.93 times 18 is $44,000. Okay, but we don't have 18 units. We'll never have 18 units. All we're going to have is 6 units. That's it. That equates to substantially less. So I'm saying it really is, if that was the concept and the idea back then, there's been an overpayment of 15,000 some change. Clearly, the remaining 21,000 just seems inherently unfair. I mean, the town isn't out to take advantage of mistakes or take advantage of things that weren't fair at the time and aren't fair now. So I'm asking 2 things. One, I'd love to get, at the very minimum, or an agreement that any further money is not owed. Based on 18 units, he only has 6. He'll never have more. That means of that agreement, there's about $21,643 left over that hasn't been paid, asking that the agreement be modified to say, that's it, it's over, no more payment. Secondly, that may be overreaching, but it doesn't hurt to ask, I think he's overpaid. He's paid $33,000, but if it was going to equate down to a $2,400 per achievable unit, you can't get what people thought was achievable at the time. You only get 6 units instead of 18. So asking for a reduction of that. It seems fair, it's numbers. I know it's unusual, but normally you get something a little bit better than 30% over time. That's not the case. It's just very tough lot topography and wetland. So that's the request. Two steps. One, that the remaining balance be wiped out. It's not a modified agreement, say that's it, you paid all you're gonna pay. Two, we're asking for some sort of repayment, because he's really overpaid. And it's laid out on the first page, it's all mathematically laid out.
Thank you, sir. Pete, you have a question?
I got a few.
Okay.
First of all, when this was being done, who determined the number of lots? Who made that determination?
The town, I think it was like 2 or 3 or 4 managers ago, made that determination, and that's why we went back. Originally they thought they thought there was 44 units possible. I think they're basing that probably on Morgan's, or states next door. That was not the case. They pared it down to 28, and we came back and at 68,000, and quite frankly, I can't remember because we kept going back and forth, down to $44,000. It's kind of an agreement to realize no one really knows how much can be had out there, but it was less than what the town originally came up for by about $24,000.
And in that agreement that you had with the town for the 44,000, was there any stipulation in there that if you did
Nope.
not do those units, that the town would reimburse you or anything?
None whatsoever, no clawback whatsoever. The agreement is rock solid, I will give you that. I'm just saying it is inherently unfair, given the facts as we know them today.
Okay, I guess my next question will go towards Derek. If this happens, what happens to the assessments to the other units down there? Does that go up to compensate?
It does not change the betterment assessments on the other properties that have paid in full. You'd be doing an abatement of this betterment assessment, and we would, basically that lost amount would be pulled from overlay.
And then, if we didn't, I'm not saying we aren't going to, but if we didn't do the 15,092 and just granted no further monies be paid, how is that handled?
Again, we pull it from overlay, so it's basically a bookkeeping exercise to pull that money over, because we have those bond payments and interest payments annually until we've repaid the note. We've had many properties down there that have prepaid, so in the years that they're prepaid, we get in more revenue than we're anticipating, but it goes into fund balance, and then other years those have already been paid out. So.
Collis?
So I guess you file this under trust but verify. Is there an engineer's report on file?
I didn't do the
There-
engineering, I don't know, but all I know is we had fought over the last 3 years to get these 3 lots, and that's not all that was doable.
I guess what I'm looking for is documentation from an engineer to demonstrate that, based upon site constraints, topography, availability, municipal sewer, and ability to site septic systems, that 6 units, 3 duplexes is all possible. That's what I'm
yeah.
looking for.
I could get that,
Okay.
okay? Craig Francisco did that. I mean, we originally were trying to get 2 on 13, but it just wouldn't fit.
Yeah. That's what I'm looking for.
Jim?
That's, I guess for Derek, are there any more of these agreements floating around town?
This is the only one on this betterment assessment. I think this lot was very unique when you look at the other lots in the Lynchville and Danish Park. For the most part, most of those lots were very small when water was brought down there. This was really the only large undeveloped lot. So Steve Griffin, who was the planner at the time, was the one that made that original estimation on how many units could fit down there.
The original 13 in back, I think that was, the Boy Scouts had that. I think it was donated from the Catholic Church or something like that. It was always landlocked, but they would walk across 11 to get to it and back. And this, the town used it to pull out fill, and then when the town was finished with it, My guy bought it from the town.
So any agreement we would make a stipulation that there could be no more than 6 units put in there.
Sure, there's no.
I'm
Yeah.
Yep, that's reasonable.
You know, I don't think it's unreasonable that to come back and then all of a sudden, well, we found out we could put 8.
Yeah.
You know, that would be a maximum under the agreement that no more than 6 units are.
Great. So,
That-
sir, you agree that you would be able to provide us with some
Sure.
sort of engineering
get
consult
your
that we
report.
could use? That would be
Great,
wonderful.
thank you.
Anyone else have any other questions?
So can I make a motion that we table this till we get more information?
Yes, please.
Second.
Motion by Peter, second by Jim. Any other questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, abstained?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
I'll try to get it, and I'm taking off next week. I'll get it to you by the next meeting.
Okay, great, thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, folks. Stay dry.
Yeah, we'll try.
Pretty good, Jim.
All right, we have some public hearings at 6:30. What do we have?
Tab 6, you have the DPW director with a bid award recommendation.
Adam, are you comfortable with 6 minutes? Okay. Oh, that sounds like a bet.
Could do them all.
Hi, good evening. Okay, pretty straightforward. I think you've got my memo on tab 6. We went out to bid last month for the latest live floor trailer for solid waste. We received 2 bids, quite a spread between the two. I'd recommend tonight we award to the low bidder, Utility Trailers of New England, for $146,218. That's less than we had budgeted by a bit. We had budgeted $155,000 for this trailer based on some increases we had seen the last time we went out to bid. We have purchased a trailer from them before. They were not the last year's trailer, but a couple of years prior, we had one from Utility Trailers in North Langton. So
What was the big difference between the price? Is there anything on the specs?
nothing that jumped out as a, we didn't really have a full apples to apples itemization, so I'm not sure.
Great.
We
Any
recommend
questions?
an award the life floor trailer to Utility Trails of New England for $146,218.
Motion by Peter, second by Mark. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, abstained? Motion passes.
Thank you.
It was actually 1 minute, so high five. Good job. All right, let's see, what else do we have?
Start the public hearing, so go through that.
Yeah, by the time I'm done reading, probably.
Right, exactly.
All right.
You can applaud other items as well, by the way.
I know, like, that was a good addition to it. We don't normally hear applause in here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and read the opening for the public hearing. This is a public hearing in regards to town acquisition of a proposed 32.333 acre parcel from a proposed open space subdivision. The proposed parcel is identified as map 10, lot 10-OS. The property is owned by David Kelbinin, if that's right, located at 102 Tenney Road. The Goffstown Select Board is conducting this public hearing in accordance with RSA 41:14-A to accept public input pertaining to the town taking ownership of a proposed 32.333 acre parcel from a proposed open space subdivision. The proposed subdivision would subdivide the existing lot into 4 new lots and create 1 lot that will remain as an open space. The Select Board is seeking input on the proposed parcel identified as map 10, lot 10-OS. The property is owned by David Kalbinov, located at 102 Tenney Road. A second public hearing is scheduled for Monday, 7/24/23 at 6:30 p.m. The Select Board is scheduled to vote on this acquisition on 7/31/2023. We're a few minutes early, but we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. And at this time, I'd like to invite up David Neiman, just a little bit more background on this. Thank you so much, David. If you could state your name.
Good evening, I'm David Neiman, here representing the Goffstown Conservation Commission. This subdivision process had started the usual way through the planning board. It had come before the Conservation Commission to review, and we reviewed it at that time. And under the original proposal, the open space component of the subdivision was intended to be transferred to the PLC. That was the Piscataqua Land Conservancy. That was the intent of the owner, and that's what was presented to us in Conservation when they reviewed it. But it turns out they actually hadn't been a lot of communication going on between everybody in the PLC, and when the PLC was asked, they declined. The reason they declined is because they've lost staff person that does the conservation projects, and they didn't feel like they could take on anything new at the time. So then the most likely outcome is it would be like most other subdivisions, open space subdivisions, where the open space parcel ends up going to a created homeowners organization with usually there's a conservation easement then held by the town against the homeowners association. I decided the day after we learned about all this that it might be worth going out and taking a look at the site, and the open space site. We hadn't actually walked it, and when I went out I discovered it was really a very, very nice piece. With a really mature, well-developed hardwood forest, which even has some old growth trees in it. It's something that's really unusual to find. A lot of really beautiful and scenic wetlands around the perimeter. It would make another great opportunity to open it up for public enjoyment. The no cost to acquire the parcel because we're not buying it. It's part of the open space subdivision being donated to the town instead of going to the PLC. And we'd be able to put a trail in there for public at no cost as well, because we walked it, and there's no need to build any kind of bridges or any kind of structures to get around. We can just mark a trail, which is pretty straightforward and simple to do with volunteers. So at no cost, we could open up a nice piece of land, another piece of land for the public to enjoy. And we just thought that conservation, that this was kind of a no-brainer, that we should try to go for this.
Great, thank
Thank
you,
you.
David. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, appreciate it. You're just a regular on our schedule these days, so thank you for all your hard work.
Thanks, David.
So if anyone else in the audience would like to come up, just please state your name and address. Please feel free, ma'am. Sure, if you could just please come up and state your name and address, and then Mr. Neiman can come back up to answer your question.
I'm Georgia Drew. I live on 81 Tenney Road. I'm an abutter. I am all for the conservation of the land. I think it's wonderful. My comment or my question is, I was recently told, but evidently I wasn't, I didn't realize there were two people looking at the land, meaning groups. But I was informed by the office here that one of the groups did not want a trail, that they wanted to leave it natural and not have people going out there. So that was going to be my question directed to this gentleman.
Okay. David, do you have a, can you come back up just so for
Sorry.
minutes, please, for him? Thank you.
Sure, happy to answer any questions. To the best of my knowledge, that's not the case, because the original proposal was to go to the PLC, and when they finally went and asked them if they wanted it, they said no, they didn't want it, so they weren't specifying anything about trails or no trails.
According to this was going to be a trail to get to the conservation land, and that's fine. But after speaking with the other person, her information was that it was to remove that and just cut it off.
There was a lot of talk going back and forth between planning and others, and originally they had proposed an easement that ran down along the boundary, a completely different path. And when people looked at that, I'm not sure which abutter you are, but when we looked at that, we thought that would not be nice to the abutters.
No.
So, and unnecessary, because there's a whole strip on the western side of the property. There's a 60-foot strip, which is part of the open space. So this is the primary access. And it's actually a very nice walk up through there as well. So any trail that goes in will probably go up and do a loop around the main part of the property. This other access that they propose to have an easement for could be a shortcut out for people on the longer loop possibly, but I don't know if that it'll even be required. It'll depend on if there's any kind of crossing. There's a little wetland here, it's just seasonal. If there would be any kind of structure needed to cross it, then I'm sure we wouldn't do it.
We're on this side.
Oh, okay. I think you're probably far enough away from anything that it shouldn't be impacted. I don't anticipate this being a heavy traffic site. It's not going to be like the Uncanonic Mountains where it's very, very busy.
Hollis, you have a question?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but we're not talking about any sort of an easement here. We're talking about the town acquiring it through fee simple ownership. Is that correct?
Fee simple ownership for the majority of the property. The easement came in, and told
No, twice.
there was, in these lots being created, there was also, in addition to the access that's just part of the fee ownership, they're also considering putting in an easement, trail easement along here if we would want it or need it
Got it.
to have an additional access point into it. But
Got it.
Does that answer your question, ma'am? Anyone else have any other questions or would like to give public comment? Okay, great, thank you. At this time, we'll go ahead and close the public comment. Public hearing, sorry. Thank you.
B.
So you're on page 18, you have another public hearing.
All right, for our second public hearing for this evening, we'll be opening it up for discussion about the demolition of a town-owned building at 1 North Mass, map 34, lot 106. The Goffstown Select Board is conducting this public hearing in accordance with RSA 41:14-A to accept public input pertaining to the town demolishing the vacant town-owned building at 1 North Mass, map 34, lot 106. The second public hearing is scheduled for Monday, 7/24/23 at 6:30 p.m. The Select Board is scheduled to vote on this acquisition on 7/31/23. At this time, we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on this item? Okay.
Could I
Any
just,
Select Board? Yeah, go ahead.
could I just say one thing? Where it says to vote on this acquisition, it's not
should
really
be
an
demolition.
acquisition, it's a demolition.
You heard me pause it now.
Can Derek just give us a little background, maybe for the benefit of folks who may be watching, just briefly?
So this parcel was purchased by the town in 2017 when it became available, in case there were ever a need for traffic realignment at that intersection. At the time when Adam was the town administrator, he did work with Main Street Program and some others about potentially renting the space, but we never found a usable tenant for the space. Need some significant upgrades. We're seeking to demolish this and just turn it into green space for the time being. We've already abated all the asbestos within the house, and currently the police and fire are using it for training purposes only. So once we get the go-ahead, after the second public hearing and the vote by the board, we would have the contractor come in and demolish the building.
And the contract's already been given for demolition.
Yes, you had already awarded the...
Thanks, Derek.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing nothing else, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Thank you. All right. Next up, we have new business. Do we want to take on the bridge ordinance first?
This is jumping off the bridge ordinance, right?
You want a bit of history?
Or just whatever you'd like to propose.
Over the weekend, I witnessed some kids jumping off the bridge, and I'm quite concerned about the fact that we have young kids jumping off the bridge,
The Main Street Bridge.
the Main Street Bridge, yeah. I mean, who knows what's under there? I've not ever seen that really dry or drained enough to see what's under there. And I'm afraid that somebody could get seriously hurt and we could open ourselves up for who knows what. So I brought to Derek today, you know, concern, and Derek was kind enough to dig out the ordinance dating back 1977, which we have in front of us. And Derek did some homework, and there is a possibility that we could get under RSA Selectmen Section 41:11 to get the RSA or amendment fixed or updated so that we would no longer, hopefully, have kids jumping off of that bridge.
Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. So in regards to this, and I know Derek did some of the homework as well, I talked to the police chief this morning, and he informed me that they have been trying to mitigate this as best they can, but also suggested that we consider some signage on the bridge, just to caution, you know, either say no jumping off the bridge or at your own risk to mitigate liability or deter people from jumping. Derek, as far as updating this, if it's the same exact ordinance, would we need to do that?
I think it'd be smart to amend it to actually point to the RSA's. Unfortunately, in 1977, when they did this, they just said in accordance with New Hampshire law, but they're not very clear on what they're pointing to. Talking with the attorneys, the highway statutes do allow you to point to those because it does regulate the use of public ways, including sidewalks, as well as playing games and doing items within that public right-of-way. So I would say at a minimum, it'd be nice to update those. I think the police department has tried to mitigate this. So I think it could be a two-pronged approach and get some signs up as well.
Yes.
I would like to see a report that says how many kids have been injured or people have been injured jumping off of that bridge. I can tell you that in the, and I'm baiting myself, 60s, I used to jump off of that bridge. And I know kids have been doing it for that long, 80 years now or 70 years or whatever. That bridge has been there, people have been jumping, and I've never heard of anybody getting hurt. I don't think we need to, I think the signs are a good idea, but I don't think we need to get mean about it.
Well, I mean, I would just like to point out that you, in fact, were violating a town ordinance.
No, this was in this was in 77, this was in
Okay,
the late
just
60s.
saying.
The Wild
That I
West.
was doing.
No, I agree. And the police said that they intend to continue to just have conversations and utilize the community policing approach, and are not particularly interested in being aggressive unless the situation is escalated, but it's predominantly younger kids. So I'm in favor of updating the ordinance and looking at some options for signage just to, you know, assist, but I don't even know where we would put those.
Well, you'd
Maybe
have to have-
Adam could help us with that.
You need four of them,
He
one
just
in each
blindly
corner.
said yes, perfect.
I would
Sounds
think
good.
you need four of them, one in each corner.
Yeah, we would have to figure out where and what, if.
I'm looking at the picture of the bridge, and I assume that you jump off the street bridge, right?
Right.
The kids I've been seeing have been jumping, yeah, from the side with the
And my question is that where the bridge used to be, on the two ends, do people jump off of there?
Oh, the trestle on the
Yeah,
rail
the
trail
trestle,
side?
I have never seen the
I
kids
haven't
jumping off
seen
of that.
anyone there.
Well, they usually jump right off the bridge.
Just because I wonder if, because we don't own one end of the trestle there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not an
With-
easy spot to jump into the river from
Okay, all
there.
right, so we don't need to worry about it, all right?
So can we put this on the action matrix?
Absolutely.
I would say we put this on the action
Go ahead,
matrix.
Charles.
So I agree with signs to try and limit our liability. I mean, if we are going forward with this, I don't like the language that says, any person violating shall be fined not more than $100. That's very subjective. I don't know what that means. If we're going to impose a fine, let's impose a fine. Right, so it's easy to enforce.
Okay. So I think that's what we need to talk about after that.
Yeah.
when we get down to the nitty gritty.
State laws, violations of up to $500 fines, and that's where that came from probably.
So probably with the language within the RSA, we could go.
We could set them out.
I
Okay,
don't-
great.
We're okay with that one.
So we'll start there and get some input. And then we also, David, public comment will be coming up in a minute, so we'll get a chance for that. Yeah, so we'll do that. Okay, great. All right, moving on. New business, I have something. Does anyone else have anything before I move on? Okay. So what I'm proposing this evening is for sort of a planning meeting for the select board and the department heads, potentially also school administration. And this comes from me being on CIP this year. We're coming up on our last meeting, potentially second to last meeting. And just really looking at, I know you guys have seen my maps and my like crazy writing on the walls in the select board room of all the notes I've been taking. But looking at the big picture planning of everything coming down the pipeline in the next 1 to 7 years from now. And I think that I would really like this board to sit down and have some very thoughtful discussions about the things that we need as a community and really trying to give the department head some direction on prioritizing and planning, and putting together a list of questions that we need answers to. We know there's a handful of things still up in the air, but kind of prioritizing everything from actual needs and grant capabilities and stuff like that. So I'm proposing that we all have a joint special meeting to start that process prior to the budget season kicking off. Yep.
Couple of things. You just mentioned the budget season, but normally we would come up with a target on increasing for the budget and pass it on to the department heads to give them an idea of what we're looking for. But your idea of getting us together with everybody, I think that's a great idea. If I don't think it would be just one meeting. I think that town departments should meet first and then come up with our plan, because the school already has a plan.
Yeah, I don't, yes.
And then, after we have our plan, then we can sit with the school folks
Yep.
and say, okay, this is our plan, what's your plan, what can we do
Yeah, I think
to ease
there's,
the burden on the taxpayers in town?
yeah, I think a lot of it also has to do with space and the growing space concerns, and I think you're right, there's a lot of areas that we can work together on a lot of those issues, but I would like to invite them at some point, whether it be
I agree.
the whole school board or the administration, whatever it is, after we kind of wrap our brains around everything. So if everyone's okay with that, I would like to call a special meeting to sit down and really do some decision or prioritization on our parts.
We already have a couple of special meetings coming up, right?
Next Monday, and then on the 31st as well. You have a regular meeting scheduled for August 14th. On August 22nd, I'm just waiting on one confirmation from DES on August 22nd, which is a Tuesday night. That looks to be the informational meeting with the state of New Hampshire on the dams.
Sorry, what date is it?
August 22nd. It's a
St.
Tuesday
A's.
night at St. A's at the New Hampshire Institute of Politics. We've already confirmed the room. I just need to get firm confirmation from DES, but that was one of the dates they said would work. So, and then on the 24th, you have the employee appreciation night, and then you'll have your second meeting in August. So perhaps it could be something if you want to wait till September, where the departments are into their budgeting at that point, or you could do it perhaps on August 7th, which is a Monday, or you could look to do it some off night.
I would like to do it, at least the initial meeting, as early as possible so that it gives people time to answer questions or get more information, and then plan a secondary meeting. I mean, we could aim for September at that point.
Are we going to set a target date for the budget? With the departments to try to keep their increases down to or at? which we've done in the past.
Do we
We
have?
could do that in a
target?
regular meeting, we could do that in a regular meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a target,
Well, that's what
First
we need to
budget
come up
meeting?
with, yeah.
we typically do that, what, the end of September?
Well, they're starting to develop their budgets, they probably need it before that, don't they?
Beginning of
Yeah,
September?
because Parks and Rec takes theirs to the Parks and Rec Commission, library takes theirs to the library trustees. So I would say, at a minimum, you would need that probably by your next meeting on the 24th. That would give people at least August of what you're looking for.
So could we get, and I don't know how hard this is to do, Derek and Danielle, can we get like what the hard numbers are that we have to go forward with? Like contractual stuff and then say, okay, this is all contractual, that's a 3% increase in the budget, and then go from there.
So like a default budget?
Yeah, kind of like a default budget.
We can get as much information as possible. I don't know that we'll have a full default budget, but
Something close.
Pete, are you saying that you want it for this initial planning meeting?
No, different meeting. This is
Okay.
gonna be, we have to come, we've got to give a target to the department heads to shoot for. You know, because you don't want to waste their time and tell them they can come in with a 15%
No, I
increase and they
understand.
come in
I
and say,
just-
whoa, whoa, whoa. No, we want you at a 5% or 3% over there.
us that up front.
Yeah.
I don't think
So-
anyone disagrees, but we're trying to plan this meeting, right? And this one, you want to do in like a public, regular meeting? for
Yeah,
the
we'll just do it at a regular
August
meeting.
meeting?
Well, we can do it at our next meeting, right?
I don't know how much information we can get to you, but we can work to get as much as possible. I mean, we still haven't locked in electric, gasoline, or diesel, heating oil, so there's still some commodities out there that we do not have that information yet,
Some of it, we already have contracts for next year. Didn't we do a long-term contract with one of them?
with one of them,
Yeah.
yeah. But our electricity's running out here soon, so.
Yeah, they'll do a pretty reasonable estimate though,
Yeah.
give some ballpark figures. What do you think?
They gotta have something to shoot for.
Right.
So we'll get that on the table, if not by the next meeting, August. And then, is everyone okay with planning a strategic planning meeting for the 7th? For us? And the department heads?
I don't know what department head availability will
If
be,
they're
but we can
available.
put it out to them.
August 7th?
Monday?
Yes.
Is that okay with everyone?
6 o'clock.
So pretty much all our Mondays to take it up for the next,
For the rest of the
for
year.
the summer.
You can have the, no, you can't have the 31st. Yeah, they're all gone, bye. Okay, that was my new business, thank you. Anyone else have anything, new business? Okay. Old business, we have the Invest New Hampshire Municipal Per-Unit Grant Program.
So I know when you voted to accept these funds, you had kind of talked to us about what's the process going to be for using these funds. Immediately after I talked to Danielle, and she involved Zach, the accountant and assistant finance director, about what are the restrictions on these funds. The state of New Hampshire has said there are no restrictions, but ultimately these are funds that came down from U.S. Treasury. So what you have in your packet is the advice from our finance staff, and I completely agree with this, that these funds to be used for government services traditionally provided by the recipient government. Funds may not be placed into capital reserve funds. So, our recommendation is it should be dedicated to offsetting and improving upon existing governmental services provided by the town. I know at that public hearing, you did have the developers for Bog Road come in and say that they would, like some of those funds. So I guess this is our best advice to you on what could be done.
Are they, according to what you just said, it had to be used for certain, are they eligible to get some of those funds?
So that was my question. In this letter, it says the grant period for developers has since closed.
The state of New Hampshire had using the same federal funds, they had a different bucket that was for developers to tap into. Now, the developer did go to the Hillsborough County and took from their COVID funds and did actually get funds from the county for this specific project. So that is ultimately from the same giant bucket. But again, we feel that it's safer to do it for traditional governmental services rather than, but again, that's our best, advice, because at that point it's federal money that's being administered by the state down to us. We are a subrecipient of a grantee, so.
Okay.
So, would it be appropriate for the department heads to submit, or for you to request from the department heads a request for some of these funds? Or where it could go?
Yep.
I don't know if it's just one target item there we could use it for, or,
I know some of the department heads have shared some different smaller projects.
so why don't we put a list together and we can look at it?
Okay.
But
Yeah, in thinking about this, it's supposed to be used for the expansion of services that will feel impacted by the number of new residents in the area, essentially, right?
Not necessarily, no.
In
So
theory.
this is not an impact fee. That impact fees are like for expanded capital. This was the state of New Hampshire claimed this under lost revenue. So
Even though it says for government services,
that's the use that you're limited to. It's for government services traditionally provided.
so then I guess the board should make a stipulation on what kind of projects we're interested in hearing.
I think Derek,
Once he gets the list of projects he'd like to try to complete, get it to us, then we can kind of go through it.
if we're going to solicit from the department, because I'm sure Derek can put some language in there to describe what kind of projects would qualify.
Well, any
Would that
would
be
qualify,
possible?
right?
It'd be really any project.
So I guess that's what I was trying to say, is maybe we should give some guidance so that we have sort of like a standard for choosing who we're gonna give the money to or what we're giving the money to.
Well, that's why I said, put a list together and go through it. I mean, everybody could just,
And they could all share a piece of the pie.
In theory, yeah.
Yeah.
Jim?
From another perspective, the developer, I'm interested in affordable housing. So the developers have been awarded something for putting affordable housing in. We're not taking, they're not, I mean, there's got to be an incentive for them to do it.
So I don't know whether or not they got the developer grant for this project. Under that, again, there was a bucket for developers, and then there was a bucket for
They would
municipalities.
have to apply for that themselves.
And that window is closed already, so I don't know if they were able to secure that. They did go to Hillsborough County, because Hillsborough County they had $82 million, and they were able to secure funds from Hillsborough County for the creation of this affordable housing.
I'd like to keep that open, so I don't, it sounds like we're not taking, they had an opportunity, if they didn't get money, they had an opportunity to get money as
From
an
a-
incentive for putting in some unit, affordable housing units, so, okay.
And I'd also just like to remind everyone that the school board requested some of these funds as well.
The SAU, I don't know whether or not the school board took a vote. I think when you
Oh, my
recall when
apologies, I
when
think Jared did
business-
state that.
Yeah.
You're right. Mhm, Thank
So,
you.
but we can definitely pass that along to the SAU leadership.
So we can add this to the action matrix as well?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. And on to old business. Any movement at all with the county for the
No.
plan? Thank you. The pedestrian bridge, any updates?
They have another meeting tomorrow.
Tomorrow, right.
Yep.
Thank you. We just had our public hearing on demolition of One North Mass. And let's see, L-CHIP grant for Grassmere, any update on that?
Yeah, we're gonna have a walkthrough in September with L-CHIP. They're walking through each of the historical ones. So we just got that news today, so we'll be preparing for that.
Great. And let's see, we have Adam, any of the, oh, yeah, you have all back in service?
Except for one.
Except for one, waiting on an engine control module and wiring harness. Got it, thank you. All right, sounds good. And at this time, we will go ahead and open it up for our final public comment. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak?
David Pierce, 21 Mill Street. I'd like to add to your discussion about kids swimming, jumping off into the Piscataqua using the abutments here in the village. I've lived on Mill Street 17 years, frequently drive the street to go to various destinations in town. Every summer, I've seen children jump off the granite abutments of the former railroad trestle. This is the first summer that I've seen children jumping off Main Street Bridge. And I endorse Selectman LeMay's comments. For the last 2 summers, there's been a tree lodged in the riverbank at the Main Street Bridge. And maybe the upper limbs have disappeared from the surface, but the bulk of that tree may still be underwater. So yes, it is a dangerous site. And whether your concerns about prohibiting jumping off the Main Street Bridge, maybe that could be extended to the town-owned granite abutment
Thank you.
for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, David.
All right, anyone else for public comment? Great. Can you just please state your full name and address?
Of course. Eric and Christy Strand, 18 Checkerberry Lane. Call us, how you doing, sir? Good to see you again. We've been working with the town behind the scenes and wanted to bring to the attention the select board of an issue that we're having on our parcel that was developed by Strategic Contracting out of Bedford. We built our home during COVID. We closed on July 1 of 2020. It was approved. There were several deviations and what I would consider violations to the subdivision approved plans. We brought them to the attention of Derek, DPW, town engineer, town inspector, all have some concerns with it, but have told us it's a civil matter. I would tend to disagree. I'm a licensed engineer in this state, as well as in 17 other jurisdictions across the country. The planning board, the zoning board approve the plans. There's deviations, there's usually an approved process with which you can deviate. You can't just make site decisions and do them. We're asking that the town look into this and take the necessary corrective actions against this developer for some significant violations, and that we're seeing issues on our property as a result of it. We really have no recourse. One of the major concerns that I have, as well as some of the neighbors through the zoning board and the planning board approval process had, was down gradient flooding. As a mitigative effort, they put in what's called a recharge trench or an infiltration trench adjacent to our driveway. It was supposed to be 3.5 feet wide. It's 2 feet wide. So if you do the math, that's a significant amount of volume of runoff that can go down gradient and impact our neighbors as a result of it. We already have our culvert, not at the end of the driveway, but midstream through our driveway that takes a perennial or an intermittent stream and discharges runoff from Unkanunik as well as road drainage, goes right through our parcel and dumps right into our neighbor's yard. That culvert is failing. The head walls were supposed to be concrete. They are stacked boulders, not stones, which is amenable within the town per the development regulations. The mortar is already failing. Culvert at the end of our street is failing as well. In talking with another site contractor in town, John Neville, he is seeing this all over the place with these two, with the developer and his sub. I implore the town to do something about this developer. He is going around and he's building inappropriately. He's violating the own subdivision approved plans all over the place. And this could be of significant concerns in terms of stormwater runoff specifically. On that matter, there was a report that was submitted to the planning board which states what the drainage is supposed to be. It isn't that. That alone right there is enough to violate
him in accordance with it in the set. I also had Jack Stewart out to inspect our pool that we installed last summer. The other day, he took a look at it, documented some pictures. He mentioned that this developer is doing a lot of the same stuff everywhere. He's being dinged all over the place. He's been in communication with other towns, as he stated, and he's doing it in other places as well. So, again, we implore you to take a look at this, not just poo-poo it as a civil matter. It's much more than a civil matter in our opinion. We'll deal with the civil aspect on our own. That's between us and the developer. This stuff is something that this town approved and needs to hold him accountable for his actions and his poor development.
Eric, is code enforcement aware of this?
They are,
Yeah.
Yes. Well, yes, and we can.
So Jack has looked at it.
Jack has not.
Jack has.
Jack has been to the site for the inspection of the pool. The construction of driveways and stormwater in accordance with subdivision falls under the development regulations and falls under DPW, not Jack as the building inspector.
Okay, has our town engineer been out and looked at it?
I know that they were trying to coordinate a meeting, Joanne and Scott, to go out and meet with the property owners to discuss that. He did respond by email last week, but then they both offered to go out and meet on site. Joanne was out today, so I'm sure they're still working to do that.
Just
I
for
thought
for the
Scott-
record, Scott Ozana has been on the property twice. He has reviewed it. He has responded that it does, in fact, violate what he would consider the plans as well. Jack was on site and did look at it as well when he looked at the pool inspection. So several people have looked at this.
If I can say, we felt a little dismissed initially. I hate to say by the town. He knows much more about these things than I do. I'm not an engineer. But when we had stated our concerns and our issues, we were quickly told, this was after Scott came out and shared his opinions with Eric. We got a response back over email that said that the former inspector made a decision in the field to approve what Strategic Contracting chose to do with the boulders. We have since asked for backup in writing. Again, Eric knows you can't just make a decision in the field without then submitting approved plans, et cetera. We haven't heard back on that, and it's been 5 days since Joanne has offered a meeting and wants to include Strategic Contracting, which we have no interest in. But we have not heard back from her in 5 days on that. So whether she was out today, again, this is urgent to us. She asked for a meeting this week. We haven't heard back. So we're just feeling as taxpayers that this is being dismissed and not a big deal when our property is being destroyed. And our neighbors also raised this issue upon development of our parcel and others, that this was a concern of theirs. And it has now come to life. And we just need the town's help here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Tell us, what's the ramifications of revoke the permit, or what happens?
Well, we'll follow up with it, I guess, to the planning board, find out what's going on, but thanks for bringing your concerns to us.
We appreciate you hearing us.
Yeah, I mean, I know in working with other jurisdictions throughout the country, typically the code enforcement officer can issue corrective measures, violations, and corrective measures to be taken immediately. We have no interest in our CO being pulled for our property, obviously, as we need to live in the premises, but obviously it needs to be fixed, and like I asked that you implore necessary people in the town. I know Derek is already working on it, and I appreciate that, sir, that we work on this.
Pardon me?
We can check into the planning board.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know in discussions with a couple members of the planning board, off the record, it was that code enforcement has to deal with this because it's already been approved. So this is an enforcement matter at this point.
Well, I'm getting two different things, code enforcement or town engineer. Is he the code enforcement for that particular issue?
I can provide you the regulations where it points to
Who's responsible for it?
who has the ability to enforce the development regs. Code enforcement does, but so does DPW.
Okay.
They both have the ability to enforce them.
So, any other
Thank you
questions
very
of us?
much. Nope, just
Thanks for
public
coming in.
comments.
All right,
so
thank
so
you.
much.
Okay,
Have a
thank
great
you.
evening.
Thanks.
Anyone else for public comment? All right, and Derek, just to confirm, we are not having non-public this evening?
We are not having non-public.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
Yep.
Second?
Motion
Oh,
by
David Nevis
Peter.
over there.
Was there some votes that needed to be done?
We were so timely, we did it before you came in, David.
Oh. I can't believe the agenda when I read it.
No, I think we were